Grimcast Manila is a podcast of creepy stories from around the metro. I'm your scaredy-cat host, Antonette, and I love a good ghost story. In this episode, we're talking to Cat of Onyx Hydrangea. She's a pagan, witch, intuitive, and dear friend of Eunice of Huhsmile. Shout out to Eunice. Thank you so much for the intro. Welcome to the show, Cat. Hey.
Hi.
So, just for all of our dear listeners out there, we are recording this episode at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, midnight. So it's gonna be fun. I hope nothing weird goes on.
If it does, I shall tell you if there is something behind you.
Okay lang, no need na. I'm okay not knowing. Ignorance is bliss. Okay. Let's dive right into it.
Yep.
What started your interest in stuff like this? Like you mentioned you were a pagan, like witch, intuitive. That's a lot to unpack. Let's get into that.
Okay, so technically, I started off with the whole ghost thing. That was my gateway to witchcraft and then to paganism. So I started seeing spirits when I was 6. Literally the day that my papa died, when I woke up, I started seeing things right off the bat. And unlike many other Filipino families, I did not grow up with ghost stories or superstitions or anything like that. My mom completely banned the talk of Momo in our family.
Banned?
Yes.
Like specifically?
Specifically, they could not talk to me about anything scary, anything supernatural, nothing of the sort. Because my mom had the belief that I'd be taken away by encantos because I'm so mestiza and I look like them. That was literally what she told me when I got older. So she
was that
banned
something
it.
she was told by someone?
It was her understanding, which is technically wrong. Encantos like Pinay beauty. They don't like mestizas. I don't know why my mom thought that they would mistake me as one of their own and take me. That was literally what she told me. So at 6, when I started seeing things, I did not know what they were, and I did not have fear because I didn't grow up with the scary stories. So I had no idea. And it was because of my curiosity in like what I was seeing that led me to witchcraft. And then after a couple of years, I found out what paganism was. So I converted to that religion, and the whole intuitive thing just kind of like grew out from all of that because I already have clear senses because I'm able to like interact with that portion of the world. And then the other things came along, like my tarot readings and other stuff.
Cool. And so basically this all started when you were 6, so very, very early on. And then you found paganism maybe a little bit later. Like
Not even a little bit. Witchcraft I found at 11, and paganism, like I really started to delve into paganism at 18, 19.
Like just a structure to all the madness, I guess.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I get it. So, okay, you said that you basically started seeing ghosts the day after your dad passed away. Like you woke up, boom, hi. What? So how, what, why, where? When? No, we've answered the when.
The when was 6. Yeah, I mean, I've like over the years, I've heard of people having their sights activated or their clairsenses activated because of a death or anything like that. But yeah, so technically it wasn't even when I woke up. This is something that I only found out like 2 years ago in 2019. When I was asleep the day my father essentially passed away, like early morning. And I dreamt of having a final conversation with him where like he was on the bed and he looked perfectly healthy. In my memory, he never looked sickly. He died of cancer. So he was very, very skinny at the end. And in this memory, he looked fine. He had me sitting on the bed, was talking to me about, like when I'm gone, don't cry, take care of your mom, all these things. And I thought it was a memory until I confirmed with my mom that he never pulled me aside to speak to me one-on-one. That was not a thing that happened. And I was not left alone in the room by myself because my mom she's a helicopter parent. But that morning when I woke up, I opened my eyes and I just I was on the couch. So I turned and I looked at what would be like the door of his hospital room. And I was seeing shadows walking back and forth, like maybe 5 shadows.
Outside?
No, just like in the room, just like walking back and forth, like as if it was like a busy street. And I thought like, oh, people in the room are walking. And I noticed like all my family, it's like shadows. There's light. All my family were just surrounding my father's bed crying. No one was walking. And we were on the 3rd floor. So it's not like people from the outside, and the curtains were closed.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So that was immediate. And that was just me going, weird.
Huh.
Literally.
And then, and since you had no concept of that, you didn't know what that was, and you're just like, shadowy things.
Literally. And I didn't know that it was something I should tell a parent to or tell an adult to.
Right.
Because, again, the shadow, okay, good morning.
Right.
There were actually like multiple things that I saw in that one day. So after seeing those shadowy thingies walking back and forth, I turned to the bed because, again, like I can hear my family crying. And underneath my father's hospital bed, like for some reason, it was much darker than it should have been. Like absolutely black. And I just saw a face right under his bed. Like eye contact. Yeah. Eye contact with me. And again, no fear. I didn't know what it was. So it was just like, And I got up to greet my mom. Good morning. That was the response from 6-year-old me.
What a big day for you this day, huh? Okay, so it was like a face, not like a nondescript like situation, and then
literally, like black, just right under the bed. Like it wasn't like shadowiness that like expanded from like out of the bed and like spread out. It was just right directly underneath the bed, black as black, like you can't see through. And then not necessarily even a face. All I could really see were eyes. And I could, for some reason, point out a mouth. And it was just there.
Oh, great.
I don't like under beds areas to this day.
Neither do I.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Neither do I. Okay, so this just completely validates my fear of like not hanging any limbs over the edge of the bed at night.
Oh, that reminds me of another thing. I will mention this later. You're gonna hate it.
Okay, but yeah, like I thought up at this point, I thought that it was like this irrational fear of like, at night if and you're like in bed and you maybe like an arm hangs off the edge of the bed or like a foot. I always have this like irrational fear that something's gonna like reach up and grab it.
Yeah,
or, like,
same.
If your foot is like the only thing outside of the blanket, the moo-moo will get it. Apparently not so irrational now, eh?
That was the only thing I saw under a bed, though.
Ever.
Specifically just under, in terms of just like positioning.
Well, let's hope he's the only one who like he, she, it, they, them are the only ones who like hanging out under there to avoid future instances of that. But so you made eye contact with it.
Yeah.
Did it do anything else or just like looked?
It just looked at me. I think, and this is something I've found out, a lot of spirits are very surprised when you can see them. I've had multiple spirits give me the, what the fuck? Like look when I look directly at them. So it was most likely surprised that this little human child was looking at it.
It's like the Apis theory. They may be more scared of us than we're scared of them.
Just the mention of Apis. Oh, we have so many flying things here. That's worse than ghosts.
I like how you're not flinching at all, telling me these stories about shadow figures and things looking at you from under the bed. But I meant one mention of Apis, and you're like, I can't.
So I really can't. They fly towards you. Spirits kind of do that too. No, Apis is worse.
But at least cockroaches, you have chinelas, you have slippers that you can defend yourself with. Slippers, I don't think they work against Mumu. I mean, not that I would want to be in a position to try, but
I mean, technically, you could if you like this is me going into witchcraft wise, you can like enchant it and make it a mumu way chinelas.
Enchanted chancla.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. All right. So that was like your big first day.
Mm-hmm.
First day into this experience. Well, I kind of skipped a question, but I think it basically answered itself. I was going to ask if you believe in ghosts.
Hell yeah.
Any, on the off chance, like, you do, right? At this point.
100%.
Okay.
There's no way that I cannot believe.
Okay. Just making sure, because I've gotten some pretty weird answers on this question before. I would be pretty amazed if, after that very intense first day of yours and like all the stories you have upcoming, you would still say no. So I'd be like, whoa.
I'd be worried about my mental state if I said no.
Worried about you too. Okay, so that was kind of the first time ever you've had a creepy thing happen to you, and so in your memory, it was a dream. Was it a dream, or you thought it was a real memory?
The thing with like me talking to my father, or like the ghosts.
Yeah, the thing talking to your dad.
I legit thought it was a memory because it was so vivid, and like the memory started with him like calling me over. And he speaks French. He always spoke to me in French with a little bit of English. And growing up, I couldn't speak French. I knew like super basic. And the conversation I knew was in French. But it works the way that my brain works, where I hear a language I understand. I'll hear it in the language, but my brain will automatically translate to English, which is why it's very difficult for me to learn other languages, because I have that like secondary processing. And that's exactly what was happening. And my mom was in the room. She was like fixing a bag and like adjusting the curtains. And my papa was literally speaking to me, like having me sit down there, explaining like, well, when I'm gone, like he was preparing to leave, which for years I thought like, oh, my father must have been psychic. Like he must have seen something to make him think I need to speak to my daughter. Because that was essentially the night before he died. At least in the memory, that was the night. I now know it was the dream within the night that he passed. So for years, I thought he was a psychic. And that's why I asked my mom to verify, because my mom was in the room. And when he was done talking to me, he like helped me get down from the bed. And he said, go, I'm going to speak to your mom. And that's why, like, if in my brain it was a memory, but looking back, there were odd things about it. One was that he wasn't hooked up to anything. Like no IVs, nothing. Two, my mom never turned to us and acknowledged us. It was as if we were looking through like a foggy mirror at her, or a foggy window at her. And it was way too bright. Like outside the windows were way too bright. It was like stark white. And so that plus verifying with my mom, like, hey, did Papa talk to me like the night before he died? Did he talk to you? And she's like, no, never. He was too sick to even sit up and speak. And he was like cross-legged on his bed sitting beside me.
Any chance your mom had any dreams also on the same night related to that?
She had one, I think, a few days after. And I did have another dream with him in it. But her dream was he was getting onto a bus.
What?
Yeah, like spirit bus. I don't know. And she wanted to go with him. Like she was begging him, like, please let me come with you. Let me come with you. And he was telling her, like, no, you have to stay for like our daughter. She's still here. You can't leave her. And so like he made sure she didn't get on the bus. And then like the bus drove away. But she knew that was a dream because she like woke up knowing it was a dream. She didn't even know that I had any interaction until like 2019 when I asked her about what I thought was a memory.
Right. No, because like it would have been cool because you mentioned in the dream that your dad had said, I'm just going to go talk to your mom. And then what if she had like a dream in parallel with yours? So, hey, I just spoke to our kid.
It would have been cool. But also what I've noticed with spirits is like time for them, 100%, it flows differently. So it might have been the same day for him, like a minute difference. But then for us, it would have been multiple days.
Right. Cool. Very interesting. Not all of that scary. And I'm kind of weirdly happy for you that you have that.
Right? Like growing up, I really just thought like my papa had some sort of psychic ability. He knew he was going to die. He made sure I understood. And now it's just like, oh, fuck.
Right.
I also kind of blame him. I'm pretty sure that dream specifically, that visitation is what like switched the flip. Like it turned it on for me. I'm pretty fucking sure now. Because his death wasn't traumatic. Even as a child, I was extremely logical. I didn't even cry over his death because I understood bodily death. I understood illness. So it wasn't traumatic. But that fucking visitation did it. I 100% believe
That's the one. That's the one.
100%.
Okay. So after that, so that's kind of when it kicked off for you. What were the things that kind of happened after that? Because you said other stuff happened in that day.
Yeah. So
we haven't even left day one.
We haven't. So like they like prepped his body and stuff. We gathered all of our stuff and we went out. So I didn't step out of the room yet. Like after the shadows walking by and the thing under the bed, I hadn't stepped outside of the room. But when we went out, so normally in a hospital, you have like a corridor with the rooms and then you'll enter like the lobby-ish area. Like every floor has like the nurse's station and stuff.
Yeah.
So we got out there and as I'm looking around, I realized, whoa, there's a lot of people.
Oh, man.
Most of them are see-through. Most of them don't have faces. And those who do.
Really?
Those who do are just shadowy. Like where their eyes, nose, and mouth should be, it's just like shaped shadows.
Okay.
So you could tell where the eyes and nose were, but they were all see-through. A lot of them were lacking lower bodies, like it just vanished.
Like fizzled out or something.
Yeah. Some were like staring at living beings. Others were just like walking. I know that there was one spirit, I'm not so sure if it was a child or just like a shorter person that was looking at me because I was looking at it.
Yeah.
And again,
like, hey, same height.
Pretty much. Again, because like as a child, I was like, whoa. I thought, and I remember thinking this, it's a busy day at the hospital. I just thought like, oh, there's a lot of people. And,
oh, man.
Yeah. And my parents weren't reacting to anything. My mom obviously wasn't reacting to anything. I think we were with maybe like an uncle and an aunt. Most of my family had like gone ahead. And as we got to the elevator, we're on the 3rd floor. So of course you have to hit the elevator and it'll like, come up.
Yeah.
A spirit stepped up right beside me.
Oh, great.
And I look up and I see a white lady.
Okay. What, literally just a white shaped lady or
long white like dress, long black hair.
Great.
And again, like the shadowy eye, shadowy mouth. And she popped in right as I think it was my mom who clicked like the down arrow, the going down arrow for the elevator. And as I looked up at her, she looked down at me. Like she fucking turned her. That's how I know what her face looked like. And as the elevator was rising up to the 3rd floor, she was slowly sinking through the floor, keeping eye contact with me the entire time.
What the fuck, man? Oh, what? Okay. What is for effect, huh? Okay, and like, what did I'm almost afraid to ask, what did her face look like?
It was literally just shadowy, like where she had a longer face shape, kind of like ovally. And where her eyes were, it was just literally just darkness, dark circles. And then like a little bit of shadow where her nose was and her mouth was just dark black shadow.
How did you not have a fear response? Is it just because you didn't know what it was?
I think I was really the kind of child that like, I had no fear. If I didn't fucking know what it was, I don't know. And if somebody told me you should be afraid, I was the idiot that was like, fuck it, I'm not afraid.
I'm a brave little girl. Okay, so white lady just stares at you as she's going down?
Yeah,
like she's sinking through the floor?
Like eye contact the entire time. She's sinking through the floor. And once the elevator like dings on our 3rd floor, her head just like through the ground.
What if it's a parallel moo elevator?
That's what I thought. Like that's what my theory is. Like if anyone has watched Good Omens, the escalators that go in different directions, that's my idea. I think we just called the spiritual elevator and she was like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? As she went down.
Why is she seeing me? And she's probably like as weirded out as you are. Like,
yes.
Is she really still looking at me?
Yes. I have found that I weird out spirits as well. As much as I weird out humans, I weird out spirits too.
It's nice to know that we have a similar effect on them as they on us.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I wonder since if they look like creepy to us, if we look creepy to them.
I know I've surprised some spirits on Halloween growing up. Like, there was this one big, I forgot the word for a second, village subdivision back in Cebu that back in like late 90s, early 2000s was known as the fucking trick or treat hub. You went there no matter what. Even when they started selling tickets that were like kind of pricey at the time, you went. And I remember... They
sold tickets to get into the village?
Yes, because it was like a high-class village. And then there were a bunch of like, I think, slight break-ins, slight thefts that they wanted to start selling tickets because like things were getting damaged and stuff like that.
Right.
And this was like hundreds of kids. Like, this wasn't just like 50. There was a lot of kids. And I remember always seeing multiple things that were see-through. That like none of them really like paid attention to me or anything. So it's not like a really heavy memory, but I just remember seeing way too many just see-through children and other things. A bunch of children because it's candy. It's excited energy. So child ghosts or child spirits love that. And a lot of fear, which brings in a shit ton of spirits. Spirits love to eat on the energetic fear that we release, which is why they scare you.
Great. So this aligns with basically what some other people have told me on the show. Again, I'm going to bring this up and my listeners are probably so sick of hearing this, but I did a season and I did an entire season of, I just interviewed or I just talked to people with third eyes. That was a mistake. And eventually somebody had told my mom like, hey, whatever your kid's doing, she has to like chill out on it because she's like turning herself into a beacon and this person didn't know what I was doing. So apparently I was turning myself into a little beacon of like, hey, free energy over here.
That is very correct.
Yeah. And lo and behold, something did like go down on that season, which is why I'm never doing that again.
That is fun. But yeah, that's exactly why there's that like saying that if it's on a summer night and you want to stay cold, you tell ghost stories because like the chills make you feel cold. It's most likely because there are a bunch of spirits around.
Hey, how about no, that is not the path I'm taking to a cooler summer night. Maybe aircon. Not moo. My gosh, no.
But that's exactly why like Halloween, you always hear a lot of stories coming around like October 31st, November 1. What do we love to do during those days? We love to scare each other. And if, when families go to the cemeteries, there's going to be ghost stories no matter what. There's going to be that one annoying cousin that tries to scare the shit out of you. And spirits eat that. I don't necessarily understand why. What I've noticed is, I think because one, when you're afraid, your energy just fucking explodes. It booms out. Unlike happiness, which is like a more of a light radiance, anger, which is very directed. I think it's a lot easier for spirits to like get a hold of.
Maybe because it's like a warning device. It's like danger, danger.
I know, maybe. I think it's a lot brighter or a lot just like easier to notice for them. This is why if ever you're in a cinema with like a horror movie, you're not alone. There's a shit ton of them in there.
Which is why I hate watching scary movies in the cinema. And this is probably why PV like taking me to scary movies, because then I would just totally dig into his arm.
I hate scary movies. As much as I like love ghosts, spirits, ghost stories, and like I'm very chill with those creepy things IRL, I can't do horror movies. The jump scares kill me. I cannot.
I love horror movies. I hate jump scares because I think they're super cheap.
I can't like scare me with the story, but jump scares, my heart, I cannot.
Yeah, like the whole Conjuring universe situation, like the whole or like closes the ref door, boom, boom. Yeah, no, that's not my jam.
Yeah, no, same.
But funny enough that you mentioned Halloween, and I don't know how this is going to work out because PV and I are actually going to get married on Halloween this year.
That's fucking badass. And congrats.
How on brand.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out because I intend for it to be a very joyous, non-scary situation.
I mean, you might have a few spirits just walk by, but if there's nothing that interests them, they're not going to stay around.
Well, at least I don't have to pay for food and drink for them.
Yeah,
so
if they want to chill, they're fine. There. You won't notice them anyway.
Chill. Well, I sincerely hope not.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing, to not notice them on your fucking wedding day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So interesting. So what else has happened to you? Like Halloween is seriously my favorite holiday. Obviously, I'm getting married on it. But anything else interesting happened to you on Halloween?
Specifically Halloween. It's hard to remember dates.
Maybe like post trick-or-treat ages.
Post trick-or-treat ages. Yeah, definitely a lot. A lot of my younger experiences are like seeing things, like float by, pass by. I have one that's pretty freaky from childhood, but after that, it was the time where I started to really get involved. At 11, I really started to get involved with my spirituality, figuring out like how to speak to them, interact. I am not clairvoyant. I'm someone who's clairsentient and claircognizant. So I'm clear sensing and clear knowing. But when I tap into what I sense, it can help me see what is there. So I'm not very strong in the immediate viewing, but as a child, which is very common, your sight tends to be very, very strong. That's why you always have those stories about babies like talking to things, and because they can see it. So yeah, when I was 11, I started to research, and Google was still pretty young. There wasn't much on the internet, but there was enough. And that helped me figure out, one, what they were, two, to gain the fear. And then as I got older, to kind of release the fear, get more used to it. They don't freak me out as much anymore. Unless they jump scare me, which some of them do. They're assholes.
That's such a hassle. But okay, let's step back a bit, because you said a couple of things that are new terms to me. So you said you're not clairvoyant, but you're clairsensing, and what was the other word? Clairsentient
and claircognizant. Clear knowing.
Sentient. Okay. What are those?
So a lot of, for Pinoys, we normally say third eye or sixth sense.
Yeah.
Sixth sense makes more actual sense in terms of what they are. It's not even 6, it's 10 or 12. There's a lot more. So when somebody says normally oh, my third eye is open, for a lot of other people, or people who just take it at surface level, third eye just means you can interact with the spirit world, whether you see it, whether you can hear them, whatever it is. Your clair senses are your specific third eye abilities, kind of. Those are your specific other senses. So clairvoyance is what is directly related to the whole third eye thing. That's clear seeing. So you can see either spirits or elementals, whatever it is. The frequencies vary. So it depends from person to person. You can have a room full of people with open third eyes, and we will see different things at different clarities, different forms of entities. It's just because it's not all on a singular, physically it's a singular plane, but energetically it's different things.
It's like if it were a wave and different levels of a wave.
The way that I explain it is on a radio, where just because you're tuned into one station doesn't mean the other stations don't exist. They're still playing and going through. The way that Eunice of Huhsmile explained it one time during one of her little Halloween sessions was, it's like layers when you're digitally drawing. You have different layers that you can hide and open and interact with. That's essentially it.
Shampra, that's her, that's her description of it. Okay, super, super interesting. And that makes a lot of sense, because I did have a guest on, a really good friend of mine, Joni. She can see spirits, and then I think she accidentally transferred some of this ability to her partner. Poor guy. And for him naman, he can only see elementals.
Mm-mm. So yeah.
So parang sometimes they don't see the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't think she transferred it. She might have activated it. Because when you're around people who have like the open third eye and everything, if you have that possibility, the close interaction can activate it. That's why if you have like true psychics, true people who can see, being together, sometimes even physical touch can really heighten what they're seeing. But that makes a lot of sense. Some people, for example, I've been in rooms with people who can see a spirit, but they don't notice the duende in the corner.
Right. Okay. I would be super interested to hang out with you in person, but also I don't know if I want you to tell me.
That's all of my friends. That's what all of my friends say. And some of them notice my cues because I have certain cues when I see something, and some of my friends have picked up on it and they hate it. Because I won't say it. I'm not going to tell you if you don't want to hear it, but I still react. I still have a reaction.
What are some of your most common cues?
They tend to go hand in hand either way. So I'm not a person who like looks at the person that I'm speaking to. I'm not very good with eye contact unless I force it. So my eyes normally just roam around the room, and I have a certain look. Well, I'll look at something and then just kind of zero in on it for a second, and then like really badly like try and look away. And then sometimes I'll laugh, especially if it like notices me, if it's something like a little more unique. I will have a nervous giggle that I cannot copy. That'll just come out. And my friends are just like, fuck you, shut up. Because they realize what I've seen, or I've seen something.
I like how it's a nervous giggle. That's a really unique reaction.
It's happened before because I used to be a trainer for a couple of years. It's happened in class. And sometimes I can't control saying it too. Like I'll say like, oh, I saw this. And then I'll have my little laugh. And everyone's response, my response is, oh, that was fun. Everyone else's response is,
what the fuck, man?
Yep.
And have you ever done that on a night shift? That must have been hell.
Multiple times, apparently. I try my best to hold back. But apparently my staring at something very specific is very obvious. I thought it just looked like I was like, tulala, like just like zoning out. Apparently no, because my eyes apparently focus and zero in. I did not know they do that. I was not sneaky.
Fun. Okay, fun. I don't know. Fun for you, maybe?
Fun for me.
It? Not for everybody.
Not for everyone else. No.
You're like, great. There she goes. So the hospital thing, day one, was that in Cebu or was that like in Manila?
That was Cebu. So I grew up in Cebu. I moved to Manila when I was 18. So like 80% of my ghost stories are from Cebu and from my younger years because that's when the clairvoyance was most active. It chilled out around like 15 years old, or my clairvoyance chilled out a bit more.
Okay. What? So from 6 to like 14, like before it kind of like, not naman went dormant, but like chilled out. Yeah, as you said. What would you say would be, in that time period, your most intense experience? Intense by which, either the one that freaked you out the most or the one that was like most like confusing or whatever?
I have two that freaked me out the most, and then the one that has to do with the bed that you're going to hate.
Looking forward.
So one, I think I was maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
So my childhood home was very haunted. And I'm saying was just because the last time I was there, the energy was very dead. It was not a good place for spirits because the idea that an abandoned house is the perfect place for ghosts isn't quite true unless that house has really good natural energy.
Before we get into the story, expand on that. Because I've always thought that dead houses are binabahayan. Or like, I've always had this concept that if a house was dead, it had space for things to move in.
That's what I thought too. And that's what a lot of people think. But it has to do with really the essence, like the energies within the house. If it is a abandoned home that is surrounded by like natural land, you'll most likely have elementos there. Some form of elemental will most likely take part of the house, not necessarily move in unless like nature has moved into the house. But for spirits, some houses are just very naturally energetic and they draw spirits in. It's a place where spirits can literally like replenish themselves and like stay active on our plane kind of. But some houses are spiritually dead. Like it's just a house that feels stagnant. It feels kind of like boring and even humans wouldn't necessarily like to stay in it. Which the last time I went to my childhood home was what it had become. It felt very stagnant. It didn't have that vibrancy that it had when I was a kid. For example, my house now, it's kind of in the middle. It's not excessively like, wah, but it's not completely dead. And I think that's because I have an empty lot behind my house. Well, it was empty. It's not anymore.
Wait, so it's not completely dead because you have an empty lot?
I think because that like brings in the more of the natural earth energy. Because mostly everything. That's why in cities, you don't have spirits everywhere. You tend to have them in either very old buildings that have a lot of accumulated energy over the years or places near water. Because that's like natural energy that spirits can feed off of.
Very interesting. And I am now reconsidering that empty lot in front of my building. I mean,
it depends. It always depends. Because sometimes there's nothing.
Okay, weird story before we get into yours. Like,
go ahead.
So I live in a condo, right?
Yeah.
And I'm in Taguig. I'm in BGC, and empty lots are very rare here, just because everyone's trying to maximize land, right?
Right.
And so I always like had this like opinion or stand that because there is an empty lot in front of my window, it's great because nobody has like this view of just like space. Because usually what's in front of your window is another building, which is great. And I don't feel anything now in my place, but I've always been super creeped out by the halls. And I don't know if it's because it's a condo, like, energies can vary from unit to unit. Because technically they're separate homes. But yeah, the hallways have just generally not been a great like vibe for me. So like, I know this is going to sound kind of kooky, but the first thing I did was when I moved in was like, I had the Saint Benedict medal from my high school days. And then literally it's still there. I put like some blue tack on it and just like put it on the wall right when you enter the door. Just like it's there and it hasn't left. Hey buddy, there he is.
That explains things. Okay, so that makes sense that while your unit may not feel creepy, the hallways feel creepy because I wouldn't say feng shui is like 100% perfect in terms of like the flow of energy, but it does make certain sense. So depending on how they've created the hallways, it could be almost like it could be confusing to spirits. So it could be keeping quite a few of them in there. It could also just be keeping stagnant energy from regular living people and make it like just creepy and shit. The fact that you have the St. Benedict's medal is so fucking good. Those things are so strong and amazing at keeping shit out. And they just create this like protective aura essentially around your home, which explains why I was hoping to see what I could feel watching over you and like trying to protect your area. And I'm guessing it's that medal.
And actually there's one in front of me there. I have like another daily necklace that I wear. And then there's another one in my wallet. Just like, I call them like my favorite anti-moo-moo device. Cause I mean, I'm not particularly religious, or Catholic, but it works, it works.
Yeah. And that's the great thing with like the symbolisms. You don't have to be of that religion for it to work. You have the power is held in the symbol itself. So, and you're layering, which is really good. That's something like everyone should be layering their protections, regardless what religion, what belief system, layer.
Yeah, dude. So I'm really happy that I went to that school growing up. And this was just like one of those things, like they give them out like candy. And all of us have them, which is great. And they're on all of our school stuff. So, it's cool. Sorry, bit of a digression. So wait, you said that you were like trying to like feel into my space and it doesn't feel that bad?
I thought that I'd be seeing like some sort of spirit because it feels like something is watching over. And I was really expecting to see like a head pop out or something pass by. And like, I was just really, really expecting it. And it wasn't quite necessarily spirit, but it was something. And I'm guessing your medallions have been with you for long enough. You have enough trust in them that is essentially your bantay. And that's most likely what I'm noticing.
Thanks, Saint B. I'm good with that. Like, I don't know. I have this like weird image in my head that it's kind of like a weird, like how the metals work. I have no idea if there's any backing to this, but it's like, I kind of imagine like this white sort of orby thing. And it's just like making this bubble. Like, have you seen Witcher?
No, but you're literally describing shielding, which is like a basic spiritual and witchcraft technique. So yes, 100%. And that fucking helps. You're visualizing the shield and where the boundaries are. And that helps the metal essentially go to where you need it to go.
Yeah. And it's like my imagination is just like, I know it's just by the door, but like I kind of imagine it to just encompass the whole space.
Yes. And shielding. For any witchlings that are listening, learn your fucking shielding.
and don't play with things you don't know what to do about.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So that's a very long digression. But getting into your story.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, wait, no, the creepy thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Now I remember. So yeah, I was probably like 8, 9. And I had been seeing things on and off for a couple of years at that point. I like shadow things. I've seen a couple of duendes at that point. The malls were very interesting after 6 years old, just seeing shit. And
malls.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've had guests before who said that malls are like busier than they would be.
Hell yeah.
When they like would see stuff.
Hell yeah.
Why malls?
It's a lot of people. It's very living energy. A lot of people go to the malls just in general to like let loose of steam, different creatures, entities, spirits, whatever. Like it's a place. For the people from Cebu, Ayala Mall in the old school days used to have a fucking fountain in the middle. It created a fucking like whirlpool of energy right in the fucking middle.
Oh.
The amount of heads that I saw in the fountain is terrifying.
Inside the fountain? Excuse me?
Yes. I don't understand how. It felt like they were just like chilling in the fountain. But all I could see were heads bobbing around. And it was like, no.
Hassle. Okay.
Fountains in the middle of the malls are the worst thing. I think one of the Robinsons here in Manila has a fountain somewhere. Not fun.
Oh my God.
That mall is fucked.
Is this Robinson's Ermita?
I think it's one of the Robinsons. It just has a really creepy ass vibe.
Yeah, well, to be fair, most of them have a creepy ass vibe. Except for Magnolia, which is like super new.
Definitely not that one. It's definitely like an older one. I know that I had a fountain or like trees. I remember like foliage.
Not sure about the foliage. But anyway, okay.
But there. On. So yeah. Right. So around like 8, 9, after seeing like all of these things, one day, this was in the afternoon, like after lunch. And I know it was after lunch because I am such an introvert, even as a child. Even if my cousins were around, I would only stay in my room. My cousins wanted to play with me. They had to go upstairs, go to my room. So I climbed up the stairs one day, and the way that my childhood home is set, you have the stairs at one end of the hallway. And you'd have to get to my room, which is at the other end of the hallway, you have to pass by my papa's old study room, which is like study/library, and the restroom to get to my door. So as I was walking by my papa's old library, like from the corner of my eye, I noticed someone's in there. And he used to have a chair that we had to like throw away because it was so old. But essentially in the corner of that room, which is directly in front of the door, and we always leave the door open for some reason, I noticed a little boy sitting in the corner on the ground, hugging his knees with his head down, like fetal position, but like sitting.
Cousin? A stray cousin?
That's what I thought. I'm like, what? And I'm like, no, all my cousins are downstairs and most of them are girls. I, at the time, only had like 2 cousins maybe that were boys. And the only one that was visiting was downstairs. So I look at this little kid, like, I just turned my head to look at him. And I'm like, what? So I took a step forward and he lifts his head. And it was black hair, like the old school coconut haircut. You know, the bowl haircut, that. No shirt that I could see. Khaki pants, like the schoolboy shorts, actually. Khaki shorts. And again, darkness where the eyes should be. Shadowy nose, darkness where the mouth should be. And he looks up at me and I'm still not fully afraid of them. So I take another step forward. And this kid...
Into the room? Or
into the room.
Like down
a step forward into the room because I'm still like, who is this kid? And he opens his mouth and his head flies forward, only his head, towards me. And I get this shrill scream in my ear of just... And I shout.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I shout. I like go into fetal position on the ground and I cover my eyes and I cover my ears and I'm like holding for like 10, 15, 6, a minute. And when I finally open my eyes again, nothing's there. His head detached.
What a dick.
His head fucking detached. And no one checked on me, by the way. I screamed. And no one checked on me.
Like, there she goes again. What? I mean, were you did this happen often?
No. I was just the child that you didn't really check up on.
I mean, okay, great. Like, they really trust you?
Yeah.
I guess. But dang, that's really like, I don't know whether to be like, well, after the initial freaked outness, I'm actually like really annoyed. Like, why you gotta do that, man?
Yes. I don't understand why as well. And specifically for the detaching of the head. And I know it detached because it zoomed directly to my face a little too fast. And I could see the body still sitting in the corner of the room as the face was like, what? Directly to my face.
And then the scream you heard more in your head
than
around
in my head. It was like an echoey, like all around me scream. And I know I screamed because I could feel my throat and then my mouth opening and I could hear my own scream. But this scream was just all consuming. That was probably the first time that I realized, oh, they can be scary. That was probably the first instance of fear.
Okay, I have questions. Did you ever find out what that was about? Like, what was going on in there?
Nah, he's one of the spirits that's just like in my house. I saw him, noticed him a couple of times, a couple of years afterwards. He's just kind of there. Apparently, a cousin of mine can see him. I don't necessarily trust her, whether she can see or not, or she's just saying that she can. I'm not close to my family for many reasons, but he was just one of the little things that were there. And that was the only time that he did that. I think maybe I scared him. Maybe he died from like decapitation. He did not realize that his head went flying. Maybe. I don't know. But that...
Sorry, now I'm getting like this really Beetlejuicy funny moment where, you know, it's like he, from the effort of his scream, his head popped off.
I mean, maybe. I have no idea. That was honestly like the oddest thing. And I've had spirits like go face to face with me suddenly because they're surprised I can see them. A lot of them do this, where you'll look at them and then try to look away. And because they think like, oh, can you see me? They'll like zoom right up to your face. So you can't ignore them.
Can you see me? How about now?
Literally. It is so fucking annoying. Fucking hate it.
And it's more of they're like curious?
It is. It's just like kind of like you make eye contact and they're just like, oh, where can you see me?
How about now?
It's so annoying. And sometimes when you confirm that, yes, you can see me, they're just like, oh. And they're like weirded out and they leave.
That got boring fast.
Yeah. Or if they're assholes, then they try to freak you out. They annoy you. It depends on the person, on the spirit.
Okay. All right. So that happened. And then what happened after that? You just saw him every once in a while, just hanging around?
I'd like see him from like out of the corner, peeking out somewhere, or I would hear like light footsteps that I could tell was a child and was most likely him. That was it. Like I didn't really fully see him after that. I think I don't think he's like the bravest spirit. He just popped in and out, and then he's just kind of like the boy at home.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's creepiest memory number 1.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned there was a number 2.
Yes. Technically, now that I'm talking about my childhood home, I remember another one that freaked me out because I don't fucking know what it was. So technically now I have 4. It's a lot.
Good times.
I'm sorry.
We haven't even left like pre-14.
Most of the scariest ones happen at that age because I think I didn't learn how to like handle my energy yet. So I was essentially a beacon. And I'm pretty sure there was or is a portal in my house.
Right.
I was supposed to mention this. I should have mentioned this. My childhood home was the very first home built in our subdivision. It is at the very end of the lot, at the very corner. First house built, number 13.
Great.
Mm-hmm. And the area...
Number 13? If it's the first house built, couldn't you have been number 1?
And apparently the area was a dumping ground.
Good.
Salvage.
Great.
So,
of course.
Yeah. Apparently that's why. I don't know if it's true, but considering what I've seen.
Man. I suddenly feel so sad for the kid.
Yeah. Oh. I never thought of that. Oh, shit. I never fucking thought of that.
I hope he has found peace.
Yeah, and apparently he's still around. I gotta, when I go home, back to my childhood home, I'll try and figure that shit out.
I don't know. It like, is there like a releasing thing that because he's been earthbound for so long, you know?
There is something you can do, but also it depends on the spirit if they want to leave, because I don't like kicking them into the afterlife. I think that's really mean to just like, fuck you, and send them over.
Yeah, gets. So it's also like up to them, but I don't necessarily actually even know if he knows what's up.
Yeah, I gotta figure that shit out. Honestly, if he is actually still around, I have to figure that out.
Anyway, sorry. Back to your
So
story.
This other one happened. I think I was 11 at this point because I know my little sister was alive. She was born, but there was a
huge gap.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I'm very much into routine, and I always was as a kid. So I heard something hit something. I do not know what that was. Something is here.
Is it? What is it? Mumu or Ipis?
I'm more afraid of the Ipis. Why did you have to say
what
it?
You creeped out about.
Oh my god! Now I'm more afraid. No,
so funny. This is so funny.
If it's a ghost, I can handle them. Like, no, that is fine. If it is Ipis, we're done. Something
to
flies.
Be continued. No, but I didn't see, to be fair, I didn't see a tiny shadow fly. So I feel like it would have made a shadow. Sure. And that is a shadow that I will accept seeing.
So anyway, at like that age, I had a routine where my mom, my stepfather, and my baby sister would be awake until like maybe 11 p.m. before they went to bed. And I shared a room with my mom and my baby sister. And at least 9:30, I'd be in bed. And I created my own bedtime. Like that was my routine. And this one night I felt like, I want some water. So I opened up my bedroom door, and my childhood bedroom, which is more like it used to be like the TV room. When my little sister was born, became my stepdad's room because baby and the girls in the other room. And those rooms are side by side. So they're both at the end of the hallway opposite from the staircase. And they're like a good, maybe like diagonally, like 5 feet away from the entrance of the library where I saw the boy. And so I step out of my bedroom, and on the opposite wall from the library and restroom is a vanity, essentially. So like desk with a large mirror. And I had always grown up hearing footsteps in the house. That was just a thing that you heard. It's an old house. Wood footsteps were a thing. And
you're laughing, but I don't know if this is a good thing.
So yeah, no, I saw something there for a second. That was my telltale sign.
Do you mean like in your room?
Yeah, I just saw something. I'm not so sure whether it was spirit or duende or something else, but I saw something just walk by, essentially.
I'm really glad that we specified that it was in your room. Thank you very much.
My room, my bed. Sorry, it was here. But yeah, so I step out of my bedroom and I hear not even a thud, just like,
okay,
like 2 footsteps. And because the vanity is like right in front of me, it's reflecting the library.
Right.
And so I look at the reflection and I can see this dark mass on the ground, like right at the entrance of the library. And then I hear the other doop, doop.
Okay.
And the thing moved forward. And so I turn to the library and it's there. I can still see it. And I hear another doop, doop, and it moves forward like a limp, like a fucking limp.
And it's like this
it's a
like
mass.
Blob mass.
Yes.
That's close to the ground, or like...
That's exactly what it is. It was close to the ground. It was a little bit more like shadowy and like smoky, foggy, but it was there. And I would just hear this, and it would move forward like a limb. And I immediately got freaked out because this was after the boy. So I had already garnered that fear.
Yeah.
So I turned around. I went back in the bedroom and I closed the door, left the lights on, went under my blanket, and I was still hearing and then I heard it in the room.
Oh, great.
And I peeked out from under the blanket slightly and I could see it. And as I was hearing the limp, I could see it like limp. I'm not sure if it was like a spirit that couldn't fully manifest, if it was a memory of maybe one of the bodies that were thrown there. But it was in the room and I covered my face with a blanket and I somehow fell asleep.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I honestly just was knocked out by fear. So I don't remember feeling sleepy.
Okay. You're just like, body shut down.
Pretty much. All I remember is just and then waking up the next morning.
Okay. And then did you ever find out what that was? Like,
never.
What was up with that?
Never. And that is, I have no idea what that thing was. Like looking back with the movements, I don't think it was the lower body. I think it might have been the upper body that was like on the ground and like crawling. Ugh.
Oh my God.
That freaks me out. That idea freaks me out because, and I couldn't clearly see it, which is what makes it creepier to me because it was just shadowy blob.
So do you feel like you're less creeped out when you can actually more clearly see something?
Yes. 100% because I can tell if it's human, non-human. If it's a human, like, get the fuck out. The fuck you doing here? If it's non-human, please leave.
Right.
Like I can handle that. But if it's an unknown, that is terrifying.
Okay, I'm like, I don't know if you've seen this movie called 13 Ghosts.
I've seen snippets of it.
There's one ghost there that's called the Torso. And it's basically like, I don't know. I think he was murdered. I think it was like a gang, like a mob murder.
I'm going to regret Googling it.
He was like pulled up, or he was dismembered, and then his torso was wrapped in like cling wrap with his arms. And then basically that's the ghost, just the torso, just like walking around.
I'm Googling it.
Yeah, I mean...
enough. And I just imagined that on the ground of my childhood home. No, thank you. No, thank you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Okay. Though...
I'm not saying fuck you to you. I'm saying fuck you to the energy that might bring something like that in here. No.
Oh, no. We're good. We're good.
Oh, I've seen snippets of that movie. I never saw that thing. I don't want to see that thing.
So I think this is why I can still watch those movies, because I'm very adamant about not wanting to see things. And I think I've kind of succeeded with like, just shutting that part down. So seeing these like images and ghosts like in horror movies is still like semi-fun, fascinating for me. But I can imagine how it wouldn't be for someone with your senses.
Now that I think about it, that makes a lot of sense.
Which one?
Like just like
where I am?
Yeah. The whole, like, since you can't see it, like, it's kind of okay to watch horror movies.
It's still fun and cute. But, like, for you, maybe not so much.
Yeah, there are some horror movies where it's just like, oh, I've seen something like that. Oh, fuck.
Oh, hey, I just thought, that's it.
Like, is that your cousin?
Great.
But, yeah.
Okay. So, we have the Thuddy Blob.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna call him Thuddy Blob.
Yeah.
And then you said you said you remembered another story, and then you have...
That was the one I remembered. This other one is the one that I always give a warning for, because it is the freakiest. I have shared this before when Huhsmile did her little Halloween thing. This is the story that when I used to be a trainer, I would tell my trainees, like, if I would always do it at the end of shift when we're done for the day on a Friday. Like, if you guys want to leave, if you don't want to listen to it, leave now, because this tends to be really freaky for some people. And disclaimer or warning, it does have to do with mirrors. So, yeah.
Dude, sometimes, like, I swear, sometimes mirrors,
no, they're freaky.
Like, anyways, let's do your story first, and then we'll get into ranting about mirrors.
Yes. So yeah, for listeners, this is your time to cover your mirrors. If you have one right beside you, I don't know. So we've all, and I cannot say the name. I am that scared. I have an irrational fear. You know that urban legend where you say a certain name in front of a mirror and it pops in? That, a B and an M. That. So I grew up, like many people, with that urban legend. And the version, there are many different versions, many different origin stories about it. And the one that I grew up with was, you say her name at midnight in front of a mirror and you say it 13 times and you spin. Oh. That's the version that we heard growing up. So you'd say the name and turn around, say the name and then turn around.
Okay.
And that would be it.
Spinning.
Yeah. Maybe that's why people saw her. We're too dizzy.
They were like dizzy. They're just seeing themselves in two.
Pretty much.
But the version that I heard is you say her name 3 times at midnight with a candle.
Yes, I've heard that version too. But I heard that like as a teenager growing up. I was probably maybe 11, maybe 10, 11, something around that time. And we had a sleepover at a friend's house. It was her birthday party and then connected to a sleepover. And only like 3 of us, 4, I think, including myself, were left. I'm not sure whether it was 3 or 4 people anymore. That part of my memory, that part of my memory is gone.
Yeah.
But we got to the topic of ghosts. And at this age, I was really starting to build up a fear of them because of all the shit that's already happened. I didn't get brave until like maybe 15, 16. And so we start talking about ghosts and I'm just like, yeah, I can kind of see them. I've seen them before. I've seen shit before. And we get to that topic and they're just like, let's try.
Because it's fun for them who can't see these things.
And I'm like, no. And they're like, come on, it's not real. Like, let's just do it. It's fine. And I'm like, you guys can do it. I'm not going to do it. And they talked me into being at least in the restroom with them. So I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to do the chanting, I'm not going to be in front of the mirror. Fuck that.
Yeah.
So we go to the restroom. And the way that my friend's restroom was created, it was a large restroom. So like the door of the restroom, right beside the door was a pretty spacious sink, like a large sink and large counter space. So before you even hit like the sink area, you had counter space first. So it was like door, a good amount of counter space, sink with a mirror, and then more counter space, the toilet, and then the shower area that had the little window. And we went there at midnight and we turned off the lights. I had my back against the door with my hand on the light switch.
Good job.
Because instinct.
You're the fail-safe.
Yes. And a little bit of light was like streaming in through the window. So we had a little bit of light and I could see my friends. And so they started the chanting. And from my memory, I think there were 3 of them plus me. So 2 of my shorter friends plus 1 taller one. And the thing is, all 3 of my friends looked very different. One had curly hair. One was blonde. The other one was a tall brunette.
Okay.
So very different. This is going to make sense in a bit. And so they start the chant. They say the name. They turn around. They say the name. Do another turn. They say the name. And I notice that the light in the restroom is changing.
Wait, so the lights are on?
The lights are off. But the lighting through the window seems to be getting like darker and more murky. That's the only way that I can explain it. It looked like it was getting murkier. And so they keep saying, chanting, turning. And I noticed the mirror not really fog up, but I couldn't see the reflections anymore in the mirror. Like the mirror had stopped reflecting them. And as they continue to chant, in my memory, I cannot differentiate them anymore. All I see are 3 girls with their heads down, hair flowing over their face, turning as I slowly hear the name repeated again and again. And
that is horrific.
Yes. We're probably at like the 6th or 7th chant. Mm-hmm. And I look at the mirror and there's something forming in the mirror. I can see a head and shoulders. Mm-hmm. And slowly I can even see like hair. I can see where the veil stops on the forehead and flows around. And as they hit maybe the 11th chant, I notice slight shadow where the nose and the mouth should be. But clear as day, eyes that are dark and red, not looking straight at my friends, but turned slightly to look at me.
Hassel.
And I switched on the light, screamed my fucking head off,
shit, man,
and pulled my friends out. It was looking directly at me. It was not looking at my friends. I made eye contact with it. It had its eyes like shifted. It shifted to look at me. And I was like, no, fuck that. We're done. And I refused to tell them what I saw that night. I only told them like maybe a couple days or a week later, a month later. I'm not sure when. And here's the dumb part. I tried it by myself.
No, why did you do that?
Because my friend said it wasn't true.
Peer pressure.
We were 11, we were kids, we didn't know shit. So I tried it at school, 3rd floor restroom. Yes, I went to CIS. So our restroom was huge because it was like, the rich kid school, the social school. And the way that our restroom was built, it was front door of the restroom, a long line of sinks and huge ass mirrors. And then when you're facing the mirror, behind you would be 2 rows of very large cubicles. And then the back wall with the windows on top. To let in light, but not, it was probably 7 feet high for the windows. I don't know. Like enough that someone couldn't peek in, obviously, for privacy reasons.
Why did you do it there?
Because I had to check. I had to.
During the day? During the day?
After school. So it was like 3:30, 4-ish. I don't know.
Okay.
So I went in there and I'm like, I was fucking holding myself up on the fucking like sink. I was like both arms out beside me like, okay. And so I didn't spin this time. I just looked at like my reflection and said her name.
Yeah.
And I said her name maybe once or twice and I hear a of a door. Like one of the cubicle doors move. I didn't care. I continued. Maybe by the 4th chant, I noticed there was a shadow on the wall behind me, like on the far end wall. And I stopped for a second because I start to process. There's a shadow. The windows are above the shadow. The light is flowing in through the windows.
Right.
I look under the sink. My shadow is under the sink. That is not my shadow. And then the shadow fucking steps off of the wall. Becomes a fucking 3D thing in the restroom. I ran down from the 3rd floor. The guard looked at me like I was crazy. I have never done it again. And I've only accidentally said her name once. And I don't think the entity itself is real. I think that when you do that, because you're like emphasizing your fear, you're making yourself...
energy.
Yeah. Something listens, something hears you, and that's what fucks with you.
Yeah, basically and it's always like a bunch of girls at a sleepover, right? It's always like juvenile, like fearful energy that's all like giggly and like really attractive, like num 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 snack. And I don't think it's like there are all these theories about what she is, what it is. There's that whole theory that, she was like a Scottish queen or like, just because this has been around for so long. And I think every country, every culture has a version of that name.
100%.
I think. Maybe, I'm not sure if it's in Africa, but,
most likely.
Yeah, right. So, and the thing is like, it's kind of impossible that it's just one thing. I mean, that poor Mumu with it. I'm being called to another sleepover in...
Like, I can't do that when my schedule's full. Next time.
Next time na kayo. But okay. And do you think that for some people, like maybe like, and for some people, like it doesn't happen, and then for some people who are more sensitive, like those, like it manifests into something?
100%. It's not even if you're more sensitive. I think if it's something is just in the area and it notices that you're doing that, and they take that as like a cue, like, oh, I can definitely like get something out of this. Or maybe they're just an asshole and they want to try something.
Super creepy. It was a shadow on the wall and then it like stepped out and 3D'd itself.
Like, I know for a fact that there are different types of like shadow entities. A lot of people say that, oh, if you see like a shadow spirit, like it's evil. It's not. It could potentially be a like shadow spirit or shadow person TM, like an entity that is non-human, that is literally just a shadow. But it can also just be a human spirit that doesn't have enough energy to manifest. It could be that thing was trying to manifest, and I could just see it. It might have also been something else. I do not know, because I ran. It would have
been pretty funny if it was like, you called me. I was just like putting my gear on, and you ran.
I mean, I might have been very rude to that spirit in that moment. It might have just stood there like, what?
You rang.
Might have been. You never know. I mean, technically, that's exactly what you're doing. Same thing with Ouija boards. Ouija boards are not evil. They do not create portals. It's a fucking piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
It is not. It's a cardboard. You can literally like
you
throw
can do
it away.
On anything.
Yes, even on a piece of paper. It's not that. It's you are talking to something that's already in the room with you.
Right.
It's not through the board.
It's not. You can do it through anything. You can do it. Like, I remember in high school, we used to have this thing called, really ridiculous name, but it's called Spirit of the Coin.
Yes.
Where basically on a half crosswise sheet of paper, you draw like
the
elements of the Ouija board. Yes, no, bye. And you do the thing, but you know, it's not really the board itself. So, I mean, if something happens, throw the board away. It's not like gonna fix the thing.
Yeah.
But what I do feel about Ouija boards is that don't mess with things that you can't follow through on or you don't know how to use.
100%. It's a tool. The Ouija board is a tool. And the only reason why people are just like, oh, it's evil, you have to burn it, is because of Hollywood. And Hollywood doesn't know shit. The only reason why, like, you'll hear a lot of people say, like, you have to say goodbye. Manners.
Yeah.
Have good manners. It's like a telephone call. It's like you're calling to a random public payphone to see who's going to pick up.
Exactly.
That's literally it.
Okay. Creepy. But okay. And then you said that there was the bed thing.
Ah, right. I almost forgot about that one. So this is one reason why I actually stopped for like a year and a half, more or less. I stopped researching on spirit stuff and I stopped trying to like enhance my skills. So to preempt this, early on in my like spiritual witchcraft journey, I essentially connected with one of my guardian entities, which looking back now, I realize was a form of angel. I do not work with angels anymore. They are a trip to work with. But
really?
Yes. A lot of people are like, oh my God, angels, so sweet. It's like, no. They are not. There is no gray area with them.
Angels, I think, are actually like terrifying. And I mean, it says it in the Bible itself. Like they have to preface it with be not afraid.
Exactly.
If they look cute and cuddly, they wouldn't have to tell you to not be afraid, right?
Exactly. So like the entity that I had, obviously they know that they cannot show that kind of like image anymore. They tend to automatically just look like a human. Yeah. So I had that guardian. And luckily, and the thing that's great about angels is they are very protective, but they do not understand gray areas. They do not get like the human nuances. They're just very extremely logical. Like if you ask them for a thing, they're just going to like, there you go. If they can't do it, then they're just going to say like, no. It's very different. I work with demons, so it's a very different energy. So I had a guardian essentially in that I'm not sure what form of angel, but I know for a fact there was an angel of some sort. And one reason why I got so scared was because it would happen multiple times where I would be half asleep and I would feel a spirit in my room and like something would just enter and I would turn and there would just be this little child spirit, like hands crossed on my bed, just looking at me.
Come on, man.
Just face to face when I turned and it would just be there And I would turn away slowly, close my eyes, and like ask my guardian, like, please, kick it out. And it would be gone. And like the room would feel relaxed
Different.
again, like chill, nothing in it. And I'd be able to go to sleep. And at one point I actually asked it, like I said I didn't want this gift anymore. I did not want to see anything. I don't want anything like that. And this was probably, I was maybe like 13 and a half, 14. Oh no, I was already in Cebu. So I was 14. I was at least 14 and a half. And after that, my clairvoyance started to really deteriorate. Like it was almost, it was extremely fast that I stopped seeing things immediately. I still had my sentience, so I could still pick up on things. And if I concentrated enough, I could get the imagery, but the immediate visual was gone. I don't fucking want it again. No, I like controlling whether I see shit. I never, just turning and seeing just that little child, just like crossed arms, just looking at me.
Yeah, dude. No, I super get this whole, I don't want to see it. I'm fine with like warning signs with other senses, but seeing for me is like really where I draw the line. That's the part where it doesn't get, like, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Like this isn't cute anymore, because like for me, seeing makes it like real. Because other senses, like if you get the heebie-jeebies, you can sometimes dismiss it or explain it away or like rationalize it so that you can continue to function. But if you're confronted with something visually, wala na, yan yun eh. Like there's no denying it anymore. Which is why like I super get where you are. And I've said this many, many times on the show. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to like experience, like knowing that anything is around me. For sure. I like the gray area, maybe not, but hopefully not. So I can fully relate. It's how you feel.
So when I was younger, there was no barrier. So there's literally, if something was in the room, I was going to see it 100%. Unless it was like at a different frequency and I couldn't quite tap into it. But if it was there, it was there. Unlike now, like I'll still see things, especially if I'm talking about ghosts and stuff, that tends to like activate it, and I'll be able to get like a glance at something. There have been times when spirits pass by my house and they're just visual. I can immediately see them. But it's not like before where I could turn a corner and I'd be face to face with something.
That's such a hassle, man.
It is. That's why a lot of people think like, oh, when you see things, like your reaction is immediately fear. My reaction at this point of my life is annoyance.
Right.
It's just, fuck you, get out. I don't care. Right. I don't care. Get out.
Interesting. Okay. So, creepy kid on bed.
Yeah.
Was this at the same house?
Yes.
Was this the same kid?
I don't think it might have been. Like, I kind of remember seeing something a bit more like girly, like with slightly like longer hair. But it could have been the same kid and it was just like dark. It was when I was going to bed. It was dark. All I remember is seeing a face and eyeballs looking at me.
You're very like from what I've heard like throughout this whole like session is that you're very particular and you can like really sense the eyes and you can see the eyes and it's very clear to you that they're looking at you, or you can at least feel them looking at you.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I can tell like it was the eyes for this thing that was looking at me like on my bed is because I remember seeing the highlight of light on the otherwise completely black orbs in their head. That is the only way that I can remember and tell that they were eyes looking at me. Every other spirit I've seen, it's been that like shadowy, essentially where the eye should be. It's just complete shadow. And something that I've actually noticed, I always wondered why some spirits I could see the face completely, like kind of how like we're seeing each other now. And other times it's been that like shadowy,
blurry,
the shaded version of it. And from one of my friends, she's actually passed. So girl, if you want to pop in now, pop in. Been fucking
but
waiting.
Maybe just to her.
So there was, she had a friend who had passed and we were talking about him. She had never mentioned his name and she mentioned his name and he popped in right beside her. And I could see his face perfectly clear. He was like smiling. I could see the eyes perfect. Like there was nothing shadowy or creepy. And I described him to him, and I've been able to describe past loved ones to other people before. And it's always been very clear, very much like how we're seeing each other through video now. It's been just clear. And yet other spirits that I do not know, it's been shadowy. And my friend and I kind of came up with the theory because her husband also sees things, and her friend that we were talking about who had passed also could see things. And so we kind of like talked about our experiences and figured out, oh, maybe if it is known to you, you can see the face. For me, at least. And for a lot of other people that I've met, that seems to be the case. There are some people who, because they, again, like function at a different frequency, they can just see it no matter what. But for me, if it is known to me, if I know them personally, or if the person I'm talking to knows them, I can see like the face clearly. I'll be able to pick out very easy details.
That's so interesting, because are you then seeing the ghost of or the spirit of that person, or you're just so in tune to the person that you know that you can also see what they see?
I think it's more of the energy is known to me, so I can pinpoint it more. Because when it's like a random spirit, it's like seeing a stranger where you don't remember their face.
Right.
It's just like a stranger in passing. But if you're talking to a person who's known them, it has a very familiar, it has more of like an electrified feeling. At least for me, when I don't want to call it channeling, but essentially when I have a spirit visitation, it's a very electrifying feeling. And I feel like it's the connection that I'm having with the living person that's allowing me to have a clearer connection to the person who has passed.
I do want to ask you one thing though, because there is this working, well, I don't know if it's a working theory, but some people have this theory that when you see the image or this, what looks to be the spirit of a loved one, they say that that's not them. That's like something pretending to be them. What are your thoughts and views on this?
If it is someone's respectful religious views, they are very open to have that. Great for them. If you're being an asshole, fuck you. And I hope you are haunted by every spirit that is surrounding you. I hate that. I hate that so much.
I don't necessarily think it's them being assholes, but I think
I've met people who are like that, who will literally, like, you'll be talking about how somebody, and this is, I don't care if the person hears me. I don't give a fuck. I didn't know who they were. They were just like someone in passing that I interacted with at work. And we were talking about how this, a trainee of mine, I think it was her mom or her relative had seen a past loved one. It was a very sweet interaction. It like helped her family member like move forward. And then this motherfucker pops in and is just like, that's not actually the spirit. That's a demon trying to pretend to be their family member. And I was at work, so I couldn't full bitch mode. But I was like, that is your belief. Let's let them have their moment. And I had to like change the topic.
I wish that person just let them have whatever comfort they like experienced from that moment. I mean, it's not like they're transacting with the thing.
Exactly.
So,
no, but that's the thing. Like the idea that it is something that is non-human. A lot of times people tend to say it's demons. One, as someone who works with demons, if they don't give a shit about you, they don't want your soul. You are a boring human. You think you're that important? It's at the most, it might be a trickster spirit, but only if you're like useful to them. And you're more useful afraid than you are like reminiscing for a loved one. You're more useful to them afraid. They would much rather scare the living shit out of you, get that energy that pops out from your fear and then leave, rather than, I am your past loved one. Hello.
This feels very Monsters, Inc. There is no energy to be had from a non-scared child.
Yes, literally. It is not useful. Maybe if like it's a non-human entity, like an elemental or something else, maybe they might create an imagery of a past loved one to make you follow it, potentially. But it's not like, I don't get people that say like demons have an agenda with humans. Like, we're not exactly the best thing in the world.
That's a very like religiously charged perspective.
Yeah. And that also tends to be the people that like try to start shit with me. So that's always where my brain goes. It's always that. But the whole idea that it has to be, anytime that you see a spirit, it is an evil thing that is trying to trick you is absolutely just not true. The amount of spirit interactions that I've had that have brought peace and like a sense of closure to people, it would just be useless if that was a fake thing. That was, what is it trying to trick you into? Happiness.
Like, what do they get from that?
Exactly. Like, there's nothing that they can get.
Because it's like you end up with the winning side of it. Like, parang talo sila in this like scenario if their intent was to, I don't know, do something.
Yeah.
Unless they make you follow them into the wild wood in the dead of the night.
In that
case,
don't follow shit. Yeah, don't follow shit. Don't be the white girl in a horror movie.
I know.
Don't do that.
Like, it went down the basement. Maybe I should go down there.
No. Run.
No. Run the fuck out. Right. Okay. No, super interesting. Thanks for your opinion on that, because there's a lot of very conflicting views on like spirits, things you can see, that kind of thing. So we've talked a lot about your experiences when you were a little bit younger. Do you maybe have an experience that stands out that is a little bit more recent? Like anything weird or interesting happened to you these days?
I guess when you say weird, that it's always my favorite little like interaction that pops into my head. Okay. So where my desk is right now, my table is facing the wall, but the way that it used to be set up was like tilted the other direction. Like one end of it was touching the wall, and so my back would be turned towards my couch, my living area, my window and stuff. So, and my TV is right across from the couch. So it was a couple of years back, and I was on my computer just weekend. So, YouTube, weekend mode, and I see something enter my home. And I have had spirits like walk through my house. I have no idea why. Like maybe there's a walkway before, or what I know with spirits is they do not care if there is a wall. The wall does not exist. They don't give a shit.
Not in their like space.
Yeah.
Or like,
and even if it is, they don't care. They can go through it. I would too. I'm lazy.
Yeah.
So I'm on my computer and I see something enter from like my dirty kitchen down into like my living space. And I see it enter, and I'm like, whatever. And because I can see my TV from like the corner of my eye, I see the reflection of this spirit sit down on my couch.
Okay.
It took a seat. And I stopped because I'm like, no way. You? Exactly. So I looked at the TV because I could see the reflection, and it was sitting on my couch. And it was essentially a white lady. It was a lady in a long dress. It was cream colored. Why is it
always this image though?
Because it's what we bury our dead in.
A long white dress?
It tends to be white dresses. We like most of the people that I know, when you bury them, it's always like light colors, neutral colors, white.
This new guy.
I guess. But she was there, and she had like, I think her hair was slightly pinned up at the back, but like her front layers were down. So it was slightly styled. And she just sat down. She was just chilling. So I turned. I was looking at the TV, and I turned completely in my chair to look at my couch and to look at this spirit who has sat her ass down on my couch. And she pauses and she looks at me, and I could tell, even though her face was like the shadowy imagery face, I could tell that in that moment she was going, what the fuck? You can see me? And I literally looked at her and I was like, yeah, I can see you. If you want to rest, that's fine. Afterwards, please leave. And I said this out loud because...
If you want to what?
If you want to rest.
If you want to rest.
Yeah, I was like telling her, like, if you're tired, you can rest. But after that, you have to leave. And this spirit went from like looking at me, and she just kind of like slowly turned back to like facing forward. And then maybe a minute later, when I went back to my computer, she left. I think she felt kind of, I don't know, embarrassed maybe. Like, oh, sorry po.
Parang she caught me. I was just planning to chill.
It was
maybe watch some pretend TV.
Yes, it was one of those moments where I could really tell, like body language wise, that this ghost was surprised. Like the spirit was surprised. Because the way that she just turned her head immediately to me, it was just that feeling of, what?
Hello?
A lot of them have that reaction where they are just as surprised as us that we can see them.
That's so funny. And it's like, it's almost a cute interaction. It's like, you kind of like, can I help you, ma'am?
Literally.
Like, you've come into my home. What is it that you would like?
I know that some of them like pass by. I've had some that like will literally stand in my house like sightseeing. But yeah, she was the very first like spirit that I saw who took a seat. I still cannot get over that. She just walked in and took a seat. And in that moment, I realized, oh, do they rest? Like, is that a memory that they just have that they feel the need to do sometimes? They just decide like, I'm going to pretend I'm tired and take a seat. I do not know.
Okay. That's kind of cute though. Do you have any other like memories that are what is the funniest or like maybe the cutest or most heartwarming experience you've had so far?
Cutest and heartwarming are like two different things though.
Okay, maybe this is like a good note to like wrap it up on. So last two stories.
Okay. So one, I would consider this the cutest, but it might be also creepy for other people. I have a very different idea of cute. So back in the old building that my company used to have when we were working back there, I've stayed with the same company for like 7-8 years. So we used to stay in one of the oldest buildings in Makati. Like I can say it because like we don't stay there anymore. Pacific Star, Makati.
Oh my God. Yes, I understand. So my office was like right down the road from that and it is just as old.
Yes. Like that area has like some of the oldest buildings. And
the office that I worked in at the time.
There. And like there was already a lot that happened there. Like so many things. Not just to me, but to other people. We've had things that were caught on recordings.
Oh my God. Seriously?
Yes. Like breathing that was not there. Like, there were so many. I loved that building just because I had so much fuel for my ghost stories. Like I built up so many. We were only in that building for like a year and a half, 2 years. Well, at least me. I was only in that building for like 2-ish years.
Yeah.
The amount of stories I have. Oh my God.
Wasn't this the building with the elevator that got stuck?
I mean, it always got stuck, yes.
Okay. Yep. Right. Not a great descriptor then.
Oh God. And then that was another story that just popped in my head. But no, next time. Next time. So
we'll just have to have you on again.
I have too many stories. But this was during, I believe, the night shift. I'm not so sure whether it was on mid or night shift because we always kept the curtains down anyway. And we had big rooms. So one of the ways that as a trainer, we were trained to move. It was part of our training that you don't stick to one place, you walk around. And it also keeps the trainees like engaged. And this class had been with me for a while. So I had gotten to a point where I could tell some stories, joke around, and it'd be fine. So I was walking to the back of the room, telling a story. And as I was walking back forward to the front of the room, everyone was laughing. I don't even remember what the story was. And I looked down at one of the chairs. And it was an empty chair. And I just see these two little feet dangling off of the chair, like kicking happily as if they were enjoying what was going on in class. And I could see little shorts, little socks, and little shoes, maybe for the body of like a 5-year-old, like 3 to 5-year-old, and just happily kicking away. And
sorry, did you say everyone was laughing?
Everyone was laughing. So like it looked like it was enjoying the class because I think I had said something that was funny. Everyone was laughing. And it was like two little legs kicking happily on the chair, like as if it was sitting down and enjoying the class. And I had my reaction of like looking at it. And then stupidly enough, because I was talking to my class, I just said out loud, "Oh, I saw legs." And then I laughed because for me, that was so fucking cute. It was a little ghost child that was enjoying. And everyone else was like, "What?
What do you mean?"
And they were like, "What?" And it was like an empty chair that was like turned somewhat to the front. And all my trainees just like zoomed away from the chair.
You're just like,
And I'm like, no, it was cute. It was cute, guys. And I just felt so, I don't even remember what the joke was. I wish I did. It was so fucking cute. Just two little legs kicking happily. Maybe a little sad like, thinking of the age that those legs belong to.
I know, but like, okay, this is something that I don't understand. And I promise to not go too far into a tangent this time. But office buildings, and the office building that I was in Makati, quite near you, it was like AXA down the road. A super old building, right? Most glacial elevators ever. I hope they fixed that. But there's always like in every office, you will hear the story that there's a kid running around. It's usually like a kid, a guy, and a woman.
Yes,
right?
Always.
It's like a boxed set. And I don't know why it's so universal for all office spaces. Like, do they just like have assignments that they dole out? Like, oh, you're in this floor, you're in that floor, in this office building. Like, and it's a bit weird because it's an office building.
True.
How does a kid get in there? Or a kid's spirit or energy even get in there?
I have a few theories. Some of them are more lighthearted. One, like maybe the kid's parents used to go there a lot. So the kid would always like be dropped off there or like would stay there. Other times it might have just been like a random child spirit because they can walk around quite a bit. The kid spirit might have just like popped in and then like popped out. Or the darkest one, there's this, it's technically an old tradition that some people did before, but not everyone, where to make a foundation of a building strong, you made a blood sacrifice, which was normally a baby or a child. A lot of times a street child. Yes. A lot of times a street child that was just given to the land to somehow make the foundation stronger. And I kind of really believe that because there have been some child spirits that I've encountered that felt like they were specifically connected to the building. Like their blood was within the building. And they're never the spirits I can interact with. They're always the spirits that I see. And then that sense just like fills me and then it's gone.
They're very fleeting.
Like,
I've heard this, and this is not the first time I've heard this also. And I'm so sad about it.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I wish was not true, but we also, if I'm correct, we have like historical, like things that show that, yeah, that is something that some people did. And it's not just in the Philippines, it's in other places too, where something was always donated to the land. A lot of times an animal, but better if human.
I don't know, dude. I hope and I pray that as a society, we're just generally over human sacrifices. It's 2022, you guys.
I hope so.
Let's.
I think that's also why, like, some places, even though like there have never been babies, there will be stories of people hearing babies crying. Yeah. It was a lighthearted story. It ended up with something pretty dark.
I know. That got sad real fast. But you said you had another one.
Yes. So I have done like multiple kind of like, sometimes it's intentional, other times it's not intentional, where I will connect to a past family member. So there was a time with my coworker and her grandfather who came through, and I was able to kind of like leave the last messages. The one with my friend, who her friend popped in once, like she mentioned his name, so that was nice for her. I've done it through tarot readings, where sometimes I'll just be doing a tarot reading for somebody and a past loved one will pop in and I will have no choice but to describe them. Yeah. Sometimes they're very pushy, but my favorite one was potentially with one of my coworkers. And I was in class sitting in. This was like early 2020, actually, pretty recent. And I was sitting in and I was already noticing a little boy running around. And he was so freaking hyper, just running everywhere. And I'm thinking like, okay, I've never seen this kid before. So I'm guessing this is a new child. And what should have pinpointed me to this is somebody's like kid or someone's connected to this child. I could see the face clearly. Clear as day. I could see the face. I could see the eyes. I could see the little haircut. The dimples were clear as fuck to me. And he was running around. And at one point, my coworker, she was talking to her class. I was just sitting in, mentioned her son. And he stopped in front of my table and smiled at me.
That's me.
Exactly. And then like kind of kept going around the room. And I was like, no. Because her son unfortunately passed somewhat tragically. And I it's always a very awkward thing to be like, hey.
You remember that son you mentioned?
Yeah. So when everyone else was out, I had to like pull her aside and just be like, hey, your son. And I had to describe him. And so I described like the hair that I was seeing. It was like the old school like haircut for the boys, like what every little boy had. I described like he was like slightly chinito, like he had like, I kind of tried to describe how his nose was, the smile, and like the energy that he had, which a lot of times it's really how they act that is the biggest giveaway, not so much what they look like. And like she showed me a picture of him, and it's always the creepiest thing to me when people show me the pictures of what I'm seeing. Because it's at the same time like, yes, that's definitely what I'm seeing now, but also I feel so bad that I have to see this for you. And he didn't really have a message, but it was, she cried, of course, because that was her little boy.
Syempre.
And I was like, he's around and he is so freaking hyper. I don't think he's one of those spirits that I don't think will cross over fully until his mama is with him. He's definitely not there all the time, but it was just one of those days where I think it was a very heavy day for her. And I think that's why he was the most active. So yeah.
Just trying to help out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Like trying to make her feel like a little lighter. And it was very unintentional. It was very much a little boy just trying to get my attention. Most likely he noticed that I could sense something. And he just increased his energy for that. And it's always difficult to mention something like that to somebody, because especially if they cry, it's like, I understand. It's like you're happy, but you're sad. And I'm a very awkward person. I don't know how to respond. I'm just there.
I hope that brought her some comfort though.
She's a very big believer as well. And I was able to connect to her father after that. Like he popped in real quick. But it's just that like those small like thank yous. And like I can't believe it's him, and just being able to confirm that he's around and he looks fine. He looks happy. There's nothing on him that looks traumatic, that looks like it's connected to his death. And that's always a very big thing for them. Of course, when somebody passes, you want to make sure that they're not suffering. And it's always that
like you still want to make sure they're okay, strangely.
Yes. No? And it's always that there are some spirits where you can still tell that they're carrying the trauma of their death because you can see it on them or feel it. But not this little boy was a ball of energy, just perfect, pure innocence, perfect happiness. There was nothing on him that would ever link me to think of how he died. And he was just around because he loved his mama that much.
Oh, I hope that brought her some comfort that stressful day. Yeah. Well, what a great, heartwarming note to end on. Let's maybe just remember this last part, which was nice and warm and fuzzy, and not all the other parts. But they were great stories. Thank you so much for joining us, Kat. This episode didn't expect some of the things we talked about. That got intense. I got the heebie-jeebies.
Yes,
it was a trip.
I am glad to keep people out.
You freaked me out, honestly. Like, I think we're going to sleep with the lights on tonight. But okay, is there anything you want to share with the good people of the internet? What are you up to these days? Like, maybe you want to tell us where we can find you as well.
Yes. So you guys can find me on Instagram and TikTok. I do kind of a little, just some cringy.
TikTok witch?
Yeah. I have other ghost stories on my TikTok too. And technically my YouTube, they're all under the same name, Onyx Hydrangea. For those of you who want to check out my tarot reading stuff, oracle reading, that's on onyxhydrangea.occult for my occult services. In the near future, I'll be adding some more, but yeah, I have almost all of my ghost stories posted on TikTok and YouTube. And yeah, you guys can also find out about my witchcraft maybe if I post more, because I am lazy.
I hear that. Okay, awesome. And like maybe tell the people what kind of occult services you provide, so they know like what to reach out to you for.
Yeah, so currently I do tarot readings and oracle readings. I also offer palm readings. I do offer a larger divination service that includes aura readings and some witchcraft consultations. I do not do spells for others. I might in the future, but currently it's not something that is something that I'm willing to do at the moment. But if you guys need consultations for even spirit stuff and things like that, those are things that I can do. Just reach out to me on onyxhydrangea.occult. Has to have the dot occult.
Also, I think it's onyx_hydrangea.occult, right?
Yes, my bad. So for Instagram, there's an underscore. For TikTok, I don't know. Find me.
It's there. Just search for it. It'll pop up.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kat. I've had like so much fun. I hope you've had fun as well.
Yes.
It ran a little bit longer than expected, and I don't think we even got through a majority of your stories. So maybe we'll just have to ask you back on.
I mean, sure. I am happy to creep people out. I love telling my ghost stories. So if ever I am free on Fridays, as usual.
At this hour.
Yep.
Okay. And just for everyone's reference, it's like 2 a.m.
Yeah. An hour away from the witching hour.
Okay. Great. Thanks again, Kat. This has been Grimcast Manila with your host, Antonette. You can find more episodes on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere you can find your podcasts. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/GrimcastManila. And we have a little group where people share stupid ghost memes. It's called Grimcast, a group for ghosts and ghouls. Grimcast Manila is a podcast of creepy stories from around the metro and is produced, recorded, and distributed by Big Baby Studios. Find out more about our other shows on Big Baby at itsabigbaby.com or facebook.com/BigBabyStudios. Catch ya on the next one.